Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and Rostermania is in full swing. Tweets flying all over the shop about what might potentially be happening. Skyz and Awakening looking like they are parting ways over at the Florida Mutineers going into the new season, and Hex revealing that all of his players still want to stay on OpTic Texters. Whether they will though, that is still a bit of a question mark in the air. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to dive into and to discuss today. This is the time where everyone and their mother is going out drawing some tweets on the timeline that might imply or may not imply something is going on. Firstly, from X here, he puts the hourglass emoji, that's what I'm going to call it this time, or the egg timer for those of you over in the UK and maybe anywhere else in the world that calls this an egg timer. But yeah, X, he's waiting for something to happen. Says this as well, tomorrow is the day, referring, of course, that being today, more than likely to the state of affairs where the players, if they want to get re-signed in their team options, need to be extended by today. So, you know, as kind of a SJ says here in the replies, it's a bit of a question mark whether X is thinking, well, hang on a second in New York, are you going to extend my deal or not? They've had a week after the World Championship to decide whether they want to keep the players that they have under team option. If they don't, they can still technically re-sign them. Like if X was to now be a free agent, and let's say he doesn't get a better offer in the next couple of weeks, they could say, you know, Paul, do you want to rejoin again, re-sign the deal? That's generally what Paris do. They don't exercise any of their team options. I mean, we'll pretty much find out which teams are going to do that in the next probably 24 hours or so, 24, 48 hours. The teams will say, yes, okay. I mean, we already saw it from TJ in Boston, but we'll definitely see more, I think, over the next couple of days, where they'll be like, okay, yeah, we didn't extend this guy. And Paris usually just release everyone and then hope that they don't get any offers and then say in a few weeks' time, yeah, okay, we'll sign you again. Or like in a few months' time is generally what they do to try and pay as little salary as possible. But yeah, X might be sitting there thinking, hang on, lads, are you going to extend me or are you not going to extend me? What's the situation? But yeah, tomorrow and today is the day where the teams have to make their last and final call on whether they will extend the team options on the players that they have under 1+1 contracts. Wanted to mention quickly on the Seattle Surge, just because aBeZy says in the replies that he reckons they should stick together. Some great content Ben's been putting out on his YouTube channel, discussing how the seasons have gone for some of these teams and what changes they should possibly make, if any. I'm kind of also inclined to agree that I would like to keep accuracy around on this Seattle team. The question that I would maybe raise is, like, could you upgrade in max position? Is there a possibility there? I kind of doubt there is any real upgrades, but I know people were talking about this, right? Because this, of course, came up in Attach's vlog when Hydra and Pred seem to be getting kind of friendly. Now, I know people have said that Hydra and Pred play a relatively similar style, like, you know, not exactly aggressive, but not like crazy aggressive SMGs. They're not like an aBeZy, CleanX type player. But I'm kind of wondering now, if I'm a general manager of a team, I'm looking at what, you know, what Los Angeles Thieves achieves. The typical idea is you need a CleanX and aBeZy, like some sort of hyper aggro SMG, and then you need your Simp, right, your second guy, kind of what Shotzi and Scump was at the early part of the season. As time has progressed though, we look at Los Angeles Thieves, Kenny and Envoy is the SMG duo. Like, there's no, I mean, Kenny maybe was the slightly more aggressive guy, but Envoy's not really the guy that's going to go in first and do crazy stuff like that. But still, they managed to find a system where those guys were just creating incredible impact. So I kind of think, honestly, nowadays, that, okay, you might not have like a hyper aggro guy and a slaying guy, but if you've got two incredibly talented SMG players and you manage to form the right system, and if they are incredibly talented, they can adapt to what you want them to do. Like, Hydra and Pred could be a pretty nasty duo. Of course, some people would say, no, you need a super aggro guy, but, you know, I'm not really sure that's necessarily the case. And I do think, in fairness, these guys could probably make it work between them. So, I don't know. It's a question there. If you're Seattle and you can make a big move, do you say, look, New York, Hydra, we want to bring him in for Mac, like, and then potentially even upgrade the AR as well? That's something that I don't think it's going to happen. I would like to see it just for the chaos, but I do think it's a pretty big risk for a lot of money, and Seattle probably don't want to take that, given they know they've got a solid team that can deliver results going into next year. Skyz, though, does tweet out this image of Hydra as well, so he's trying to imply that, you know, everyone is picking up Hydra right now. The problem is, of course, that, well, generally, the Florida Mutineers don't tend to have that much money, but, well, I suppose they could get Hydra if, I mean, he's a free agent, right, so he could just walk away from New York, but that seems doubtful that he'll get a better offer from Florida than he will elsewhere. This also, we see this all the time between certain players. Some people just love to do, like, bait tweets, but in fairness, this is pretty explicit in terms of what it actually means. Awakening says, here we go, Skyz does the whole, you know, parting ways gif thing right here, and they were right, says Awakening, maybe saying that people were right in saying that these guys should have split up a while ago. Now look, if they are splitting up, as I think people have said, look, it's probably about time Skyz and Awakening go their separate ways. It definitely felt like back in Cold War that there was times where only one of them would be able to go off at one particular moment, and it doesn't really matter. Look, in fairness, Florida, it's not like they've put the best SMGs around around these guys. But still, pretty much whoever you put around them doesn't seem to work out regardless. So I think there's a good idea really for these guys to split up. Now, like, whether one of them stays and one of them doesn't, I don't know. Like, or whether they both leave, right, is the other question, right? Whether they split up and both go different ways, because they are now free agents. They can both leave Florida if they want to. My guess is that maybe one of them stays. I would kind of like to see Awakening go elsewhere. I think there's some good flex options. I think Skyz also could be a good upgrade AR for some teams. So I'd almost like to see both of them leave, but I think one of them will end up staying. We'll see who that'll be, I suppose, in due course. But more than likely, based on this, it's probably not going to be these two guys on the team together next season. Even Mutiny needs to reply with the question marks, right? But I mean, yeah, they're both free agents. They can do what they want. They can't get extended under the team option, which the teams will have to try and extend on over the next, well, several hours really, because I think it's 11:59 Pacific time tonight where the team options have to be extended or not. Now, some players may already been informed of this. As Alex says, a couple of changes he spotted here on Spoonbill. Firstly, from Tom Gravity, player for Paris Legion has been taken out of his bio, so maybe he's been informed already that they will not be extending his contract, as we might well expect, so he's looking for options. This is also from Ghosty, of course, who was on the Boston Breach Academy. That's now no longer there either, so I guess maybe they're going to build around Sensor for the Boston Academy next year, and then see what he wants to do from there, but Ghosty might not be a part of it anymore, so thank you to Alex for spotting that one. Let's talk about the OpTic side of things though. So it was actually 5 years ago yesterday where the OpTic dynasty was cemented by winning the World Championship in Infinite Warfare back in 2017, the first and only ring for Scump and Formal. Pretty sure still the only grand final that Scump's ever been in at Champs, which is kind of crazy to think about. Crim got his second, Karma got his third. I mean, yeah, obviously legendary moment in COD history, no doubt. Now, the present OpTic team, of course, they had a more difficult time. They were potentially on a trajectory to make a similar run, the OpTic team this season, or at least win a fair few events. Really difficult nowadays to win many events in a season like FaZe did in Cold War, just because of the level of competition there is nowadays. But of course, yeah, 5 years ago was when OpTic managed to finally pull it off after a couple of years of struggles at the World Championship. But this was, of course, mentioned last night on the OpTic podcast, and they were talking a few things, well, firstly about which Jordans are the best, but mainly what I was interested in was talk about the Call of Duty team, right? Hex was talking about the new updates to the contract regulations or stuff like that. So there's now 3-year contracts that are possible. The guys have a few words to say on that, but also saying that the questions around the prize earnings split. There's some teams like OpTic give all of their prize money back to the players, but then Hex was also saying that, okay, some other teams might take a bit of a cut of that, but they also pay the players more salary, so it's kind of a give and take relationship there. But the CDL has now mandated that only 50% of that prize pool can go to the organizations, 50% at least have to go to the players. And Hex was then saying, well, like, look, we treat our players well. No one on our organization wants to leave. No one on our current team wants to leave either. So he says all our current guys want to stay on the team. Does that mean that the team is going to stay exactly the same next season? Maybe that's one and the same thing.
So we have to obviously extend our options by August 14th, which is this Sunday. At 11:59 Pacific time, right? So free agents can sign new contracts on August 22nd by 12 PT. 3-year deals are now allowed, and the salary has increased to 55. So which ones? Oh, must distribute at least 50% of the prize pool earnings to the players. What that means is that you know how some prize pool, you win $100,000, the organization gets a little bit of that, right? Okay. You don't know that because OpTic has always given it all back to the players.
Yeah, facts.
We take very, very good care of our players. Always have. So I don't know. We'll see. It's good. I don't know how to feel about the 3-year deal.
That's long.
But I'm not in an organization that needs to worry about that sort of stuff, because obviously we have our players and they all want to stay. But I don't know. I think it's good for the players to get a little bit of security. What do you think as players over there?
I mean, 3 years? A lot can happen in 3 years.
Yeah, on God.
So as Hex said, they've got until August the 14th to decide to extend those team contracts or those team options. So, I guess they maybe need an answer from Scump. Like, look, are you competing? Are you not competing? And like, at the end of the day, Scump's currently away on vacation. I reckon he's going to come back refocused, recharged, and probably wanted to go again. Maybe not, right? I think that's kind of one of the big questions here. The two big questions to me about the OpTic team are, is Scump going to retire? I doubt it personally. And what's the iLLeY situation, right? Which I think is kind of the big one. So, look, Hex said all the players want want to stay. Does that mean, I mean, look, maybe it does just mean the team's going to stay the same. I think that's the obvious implication, but that's not quite what the wording implies. Don't know if you guys see this any differently, right? Maybe it's just me reading into it too much. It probably is, to be fair. But look, he says all the players want to stay. So what this does confirm is that Shotzzy and iLLeY, the two players that are free agents that can't be exercised under the team options because their contracts have now run out, they're not going to go to another team, which makes sense. I mean, Shotzzy, iLLeY, they're not going to decide to leave of their own accord and go to a New York Subliners or something. Like, they obviously want to stay in OpTic. So that's what this confirms. Now, look, still, there are questions around the team because, yes, he says that all the players want to stay. Hopefully that means Scump included. But I think the iLLeY kind of injury question is still a bit of a one that's going around. And even if iLLeY wants to stay as part of the team, will he actually be competing for the roster? That is still a bit of a question mark. And I honestly didn't think this would be a question mark, but we did look at this just the other day when Rambo was kind of giving his update on the season. And he said, well, look, he doesn't think iLLeY's injury is 100% healed and he's going to have to take these couple of months as additional recovery, which is good that he's getting that recovery time. But I still think it's a serious concern for OpTic, right? Because I think the implication might have been for fans and viewers the last couple of months or so since iLLeY's returned that, okay, look, iLLeY's playing well, like his thumb seems okay, and I kind of thought it was fixed and it's all good effectively. Now, it turns out that's not actually the case anymore, so there still might be a question there, especially because OpTic know how much that derailed their season, right? The iLLeY injury completely derailed like all the progress they were making in the latter half of the year. They've pretty much all said that, right? They definitely can't afford that to happen again. Like, it's just something they've got to think about here within the team. Like, if iLLeY comes back next season and this injury isn't fully healed and they once again get a recurrence of this injury for like Major 1, Major 2 next season, then all of a sudden the same things are going to recur. So OpTic have to consider a backup plan here and like, okay, well, look, if iLLeY's still got this problem, like, do we have to get a player that we can actually, you know, rely on like that? Obviously, it'd be really difficult for iLLeY, but it might be something they think about because they can't afford last year to repeat itself this season when the whole idea of sticking together is like, well, okay, last year iLLeY's thing derailed us. With the same roster, we can seriously deliver the goods over a whole season. Maybe they won't be able to if the iLLeY thing happens. But OpTic fans will at least be pleased to know that everyone does want to stay. The team is probably planning to stay together unless these other circumstances come into effect. As I said, Scump more than likely, like, will come back from Hawaii thinking, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go again. We'll give it at least one more year. But it's kind of funny because people have been saying Scump will give it one more year for at least, you know, 5 years or so. I feel like everyone, when they talk about Scump when he's going to retire, they always say, oh, I reckon he's got 2 or 3 more years in him. And they've been saying that for at least 2 or 3 years. So, you know, maybe this is where he calls it quits, but yeah, I kind of doubt it, to be honest, because he did say that when he retires, he wants to just completely be done with competitive play across the board. And I kind of doubt that that's quite where he finds himself quite as of yet. Couple of things to mention as well. Firstly, CDL Scrim Intel got a bit of intel seemingly that Mutineers are actually trying to sign 2 SMGs this offseason. Heard a couple of names flying around here potentially, but yeah, can you believe it if Florida are actually looking for 2 SMGs? Now look, whether Skyz or Awakening, one of those stays, that's a question mark as well. Also, just to mention on Toronto, because we kind of wondered, are they going to make a change? Are they going to make 2 changes? The rotation still seem to believe, kind of one of the first people to report that this was indeed a 2-man change that might happen here, and the implication is it could indeed be a 2-person change. And they're also saying that maybe Ben Bance to Royal Ravens is a possibility there. I think I talked about this yesterday as maybe an interesting option for them. But yes, minus Cammy, minus Bance seems potentially more and more likely by the day. Not sure I like it per se, but I think it might be a good idea. And also it makes the Rostermania period in general pretty exciting if players like this become free agents on the market. This also from Clay, because we're going to talk about New York Subliners later on today, but Clay, of course, is not going to be on that team anymore. He, got frustrated by them a fair bit this past season. He talks to Myth, says, okay, I'm a content creator, get me in there, right? So pretty interesting, actually. The Clay describes himself as a content creator. Like, I do think that he's going to get a spot somewhere this year. Technically, right now, he's not signed a deal, and therefore, I guess he is a content creator, but maybe implying that he's not so optimistic about his chances, but maybe this is just nothing to read into as usual when you look at all this Rostermania stuff. And if you're looking for something else to watch right about now over at the, Breaking Point YouTube channel, there's a bunch of great videos, including this one. But very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit a like button. Tells you YouTube gods, this is a good video. I just like you should see it as well. And I hope grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.